In this episode, I get to speak with Gayle Damiano, coach, keynote speaker, and mental health advocate. Through her own story, she has created a platform within the legal community like no other. We, as legal professionals, have to deliver not so good news, more often than we care to admit. Having your mental health check often helps you to grow yourself, your legal career, and maybe, just maybe, others around you. Listen in for more. Need an extra set of hands for a case that requires a little more investigation work? Check out our proud sponsor of Season 3, Affirm Investigative Solutions, where you get the tailored and personal care for your case when you need it most. With over 10 years of experience, Affirm Investigative Solutions makes the process easy. Set up a call, develop a plan, and then execute that plan. Affirm Investigative Solutions, the litigation partner that has your back.
Welcome, Gayle, to the Let's Talk Paralegal podcast. I'm super excited to have you on, especially to speak about mental health in the legal industry in particular, and how that really affects our audience, our listeners, and pretty much the entire legal community, and for those that we serve, which is really important. So without further ado, Gayle, if you'd like to introduce yourself to our awesome audience, go for it.
Awesome. Hi, awesome audience. I'm Gayle Damiano. I am a coach and I am a founder of what's known as Legal Ease Wellness. I worked in the legal industry for 13 and a half years and I got out and now I work from the outside in. In 2018, I founded Legal Ease Wellness when I was seemingly the only person talking about wellness in the legal industry. I had a lot of people I want to say gave me the cold shoulder because it was in the legal industry, what I got the first few years, and as far as responses, when I talked about what I did and my intention in bringing wellness to the legal community was, we don't talk about our feelings here. And I got that exact quote from one of my former clients, a partner at a law firm. He said, lawyers don't really talk about our feelings and we love our happy hours. So maybe you should focus on a different industry. And he wasn't the only one to give me that kind of feedback. So it was really interesting when I started out because I felt like I was a true trailblazer. Like nobody was talking about this specifically at this level with addressing not just lawyers, but paralegals, admin staff, everybody. And my background was in court reporting. I worked in the court reporting world. I learned how to read and write in steno. I was going to be a court reporter and I ended up working in agencies instead. So I worked in the background of that field and in sales. And so I got to know that industry and the legal services industry. So there's a huge amount of people, not just lawyers, that are in the legal world that I'm here with Legal Ease Wellness trying to help. So I'm going off on a tangent, but that's me. But my number one, I'm a coach. What I'm calling myself right now is a whole life transformation coach. And I mostly work one-on-one with people who are business owners or executives who have a career trajectory. And a lot of them are in the legal field. And with Legal Ease Wellness, I just finished a contract with a law firm that was where I was coaching their team one-on-one confidentially. And I also was helping them develop a wellness program, which was really fun, interesting, exciting. And I'm glad I had that experience. So my bread and butter is coaching one-on-one, and I love speaking. So I do keynotes and I do workshops and things like that because I have a wealth of knowledge and I've been working in the industry for a long time and with the industry. And I'll talk to anybody who's ready to hear the conversation, actually. But the legal industry was like where I really cut my teeth, and I was in there for a number of years. So I have a lot of connections there. And dear to my
I love
heart.
it. And I think you do it because you understand the way they think, right? Because legal professionals, I work outside the legal industry for quite some time, especially for the last 5 years, because when you network, you have to network with everyone. You don't just network within your community. So I've learned that legal professionals are very particular when it comes to the way they think, the way they analyze, and they're very logical. Half of them are perfectionists at heart, type A personalities, super organized. Like that's like the typical, right? And we're generalizing.
Ideally, believe it or not, they're not all super organized.
No, I was gonna say, and I'm just like, that's like what people think, and then you actually meet them and it's like,
you're just a regular person. Yeah. Okay, cool. So honestly, that's always been my approach. Like, lawyers are people too.
Yes.
Paralegals are human beings. And you shared a little bit of a story with me earlier about how your job as legal professionals or paralegals, I don't know if you were a paralegal when this happened, where you had to give somebody really bad news. Yes. Okay. You have to give people really bad news sometimes. And you have very strict deadlines. You have people who have different personalities who are, I don't know, hovering or giving different feedback that can feel very, very pressure oriented and stressful. And not to mention especially when we worked in offices, all of the people that you had to share an office with that have totally different personalities. This person's eating at their desk very loudly. This person's playing a video game I don't know, whatever. This person never does their job, whatever the thing is. We all have to work in these situations and realize and figure out how to work amongst each other with different personalities. And we take it home with us. There is no work life like different. It's all life. We just have to learn how to truly balance, put our attention on what really means the most to us. So it's not like when I first started working in the industry, I had a boss who was it was essential that when we hung how did he say it? I think it was like when you hang your coat up on the hook, when you get here, you hang up your hat. That's like you leave your personal life at the door with your hat and your coat kind of thing. And it's business. And then, but it was more like that was said and kind of projected, but that was never what that person showed us. So it's like, okay, I have this person who's telling me I have to not bring my personal life to work, but that's all they keep telling us about is their own personal life. So it's like, it's always been blurred. And now with COVID, everybody works from home. We're in each other's living rooms. We are human beings having these experiences. And yes, many people that I work with are lawyers, and many of them are paralegals and admin and salespeople, all kinds of people in the legal industry. But yes, very analytical. It's a lot of times it's like, this is really great, interesting things that you're saying. Can you show me a graph of how this, what's the trajectory of this? And can you show me, what's the return on investment? And okay, fine, I'll put all that together for you. And then you get to experience it. And then you can add to all of those results at the end. So it's like, it's very interesting doing this work.
I love it. I know. And it just really, it depends on people, right? So we were talking earlier in another conversation we had, because thankfully I had the pleasure to have several conversations with you. But we were talking about how like trauma, our own griefs, our own personal life, like that's really hard to separate, like when we've lost a loved one, for example, or when we're going through some health issues, whether it's mental, physical, or both at some point, sometimes. So when you said that about leaving your personal life, that's hard, right? Like that, how do you like, how is that even a realistic expectation to even set in your culture?
Right. It was, I'm going to put it this way, an old school way of thinking, an old school teaching. It's very much like you are who you are at work and you are who you are at home, like behind closed doors. Like you have a different personality at home than you do at work. You show up at work, you put on a face of I'm a professional, la 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 la. I go home, I cry in my car, whatever. Okay. Because you have to emote that somewhere, or people go home and, get angry or have drinking problems or a million things because they're not dealing with natural human emotions. And interestingly, like I mentioned, in 2018, when I started Legalese Wellness, I was like flying out there solo. But over the years, and especially since COVID, there's been a ton of things popping up, lawyers helping lawyers and all these, the Lawyer Depression Project, and there's the ALA has the big, I've drawn a blank right now. There's a ton of stuff right now. There's a lot of people focusing on lawyers and a lot of former lawyers who are now coaches. Okay. People are learning, and there's an interest in bringing the mental wellness and the mental well-being conversation to the legal industry because it's so needed. And there's still a lot of old school thinking that we don't need this, don't talk to us, we're fine. We're just going to keep leaning on our lawyers like we always have, and expecting these billable hours like we always have, because that's what we've always done. And we don't talk about our feelings because that's what we've always done. And so I'm still seeing a lot of that. And I'm seeing this upswell of different organizations and people stepping up and saying, no, it's okay to have conversations about mental wellness in the legal field. It's okay to talk about depression if you're a lawyer. It's okay to have these conversations because people weren't before. So now it's this kind of a wave happening where it's very interesting and necessary. Anyway, so.
No, I love it. I'm very passionate about it. Obviously, I dedicated a whole chapter on inner preparation on my own book that I wrote because I feel like it's important. And you also, I guess, as a business owner, I think about business a lot different. A lot of people don't realize that a law firm is a business, just like anything else. It has to run just like a business. The only thing is, the majority of law firms are ran by lawyers, which are not trained as business owners in law school. They have to go above and beyond and get a business degree or coaching or whatever it is to really figure out how to actually run a business, right? So we forget that they are lawyers that opened a business so that they can, I guess surpass whatever they wanted, for their legal degree, and flourish. But now they have all these other issues. So like high turnover is always a big one, right?
Yeah.
When your best produced employee, the one that gives you the best product, no longer is giving it to you. That's a red flag. Like, why? What happened? Where did we go wrong? Where did we, these are questions that I think as a business owner, I ask myself too, right? Like, I'm like, okay, what's going on? I really have to take a step back and actually really think about that. So walk us through that process when you actually go and actually do your consulting and your coaching and your training on like a couple of red flags, obviously other than the ones I just mentioned, but there's always going to be like a common thread, right? People hire you for a reason, for problems. So really highlight those so that they can get a better understanding that this is something that they need to pay attention to.
Yeah, it's interesting because this is the timing for this conversation that we're having is really interesting to me because my business Legalese Wellness is actually, I'm pivoting in a big way because I've been working as a coach since 2013. I was doing it behind the scenes and on my own almost 5 years now. And it's really surpassing I've worked with Legalese Wellness. I've always been doing that, but it's interesting because more people come to me for coaching independently. So I work with one-on-one people. So right now it's interesting because I'm having this conversation with you, and what I do with Legalese Wellness is actually going to merge. I'm merging all of my superpowers, and I'm just going to start showing up as Gayle Damiano. That Legalese Wellness as an entity is going to, I don't know, somebody else can buy it or something, but I am open to the signs of the universe, and I understand what's happening when I keep getting invited for my work, not for as Legalese Wellness. People reach out to me independently every time. So I'm like, okay.
Yes. Including myself.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't even know about Legalese Wellness until we had a conversation. So
it was a great idea initially. It's still a great idea. I designed the logo. It came to me in a meditation. It's like divinely, it was perfect timing and it still led me to where I am now, which is still working with law firms. And I'll tell you what I do in a second, but I feel like I just need to kind of bring this path together. So me going forward is GayleDamiano.com, Gayle Damiano, everything. And Legalese Wellness is, I don't know. We'll see what shows up with that. But I just worked with this.
Leave it to the universe.
Whoever. I'm actually having conversations with people who might want to buy it. That's fine. Because if there's people that want to put the time, the energy, the money, and build the platforms the way I really intended to do, but I never really did because they got pregnant and everything. I'm like, forget it. It's been a really great experience for me. And I just am taking my my science that this is I'm being invited from me every time. So I'm just going to follow that path. And that's what's showing up. So what I do for law firms is people reach out to me for the training that I've done. The last training I did was via a keynote that I did in Tampa with the Tampa Bay Paralegal Association, where I taught these habits that I developed. It's called 6 Habits, the 6 Habits to Access Your Highest Self. And the way I developed these habits was through sobriety. I'll be sober 6 years in February. And yes, so that's a big conversation in the industry. Okay.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't talk about their drinking because they are hiding it, like I did, and like many, many people do. And they are in denial, like I was, and like many, many people are. And they're just not ready to look at it yet. But there's always some people that are. And there's always people that, even if they're not ready to look at it, they can hear the message and know that they're not alone. So that's a big part of it, is managing your depression, managing your anxiety and stress levels with drinking, and what it looks like when it becomes a problem, what it looks like internally, what it looks like externally. A lot of times warning signs are people become less interested in, and this is not always, but it does show up in certain places, in their appearance. Some people, they get more messy. They let things go, stop doing their hair, maybe they stop caring if their socks match, things like that, little like that. Their desks are extremely messy, dusty, like not even like cleaning a space. And their cars and their homes are this way. It's cobwebs everywhere. Food crusted on surfaces, things that they just let go because it doesn't seem to matter to them. Those are big red flags. If I go to somebody's house and I'm like, how much beer's in your fridge? Because this looks like you're drinking a lot. It's an assumption. I will say it is an assumption on that at that level, but it's a red flag to keep your eyes and your ears open and your heart open to see if this person actually is crying for help in that way. It's just one of those things that a lot of people don't talk about, the letting things go. You start to let things go. Because the more you get into it, the more you feel like you still have it under control because you've gone so long. But the truth is, you're starting to show. Okay. The other thing is that the way people talk, they tell you who they are. They tell you how they're dealing with their emotions. If they joke a lot about, I'm so stressed out, I'm just going to eat a whole pie. Okay. It's a joke. No, it's not. It's really not. I'm not here to like shit on all your comedy. I'm here to say, you're telling me a half truth. You're telling me the truth is that you stressed out a lot. And the half truth, the lie, is that you're going to eat a whole pie. And it's a joke. The joke is the half truth. But we do that, especially women. Men do it too, but women really like to throw a joke at themselves to make themselves feel, it's not funny. And when you start hearing people joking about themselves, their personal, like their personal selves and their mannerisms and stuff, that's a red flag. Like, okay, that's usually hiding some kind of a depression or low self-worth, which can also...
I was just gonna say self-worth. I know women in particular, especially after motherhood, go through a lot of that postpartum depression.
Yes,
so
yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Also, my kid's gonna be 3 in like 5 days, and that first year, the first 6 months, but the first year was like,
who am I? I know exactly what you're going through. Trust me.
Conversation on that.
So I got you, girl.
We could do a whole episode on that. So, I would say that when you asked about red flags would be those kinds of things. Listen to how people talk about themselves. Listen to how people talk about others. One of the big lessons that I teach, and almost every single client I've ever had, this comes up, actually every client, there's always homework somewhere in the work to remove gossip from their experience. No more gossiping. Sometimes people are like, I don't think I could do that. Well, because there's a lot there. Gossiping is what? Gossiping is when we're talking about somebody who's not in the room to defend themselves, essentially, or that you're saying something about someone who's not there, right? And it's usually in a negative light or something like that.
Absolutely.
So when we're doing that, it's not, and sometimes people say it this way. Oh, I would tell this person if they were here, but blah, 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 blah. If I had that color of a sweater, I would never wear it with that skin tone. I don't know, some stupid thing. But you understand that gossip is a very low vibrational conversation. It's coming at a conversation about somebody who's not there, and usually talking about them in a negative light, which means really nothing about that person. It means more about the person who's speaking the gossip.
Always.
And that is also a conversation in low self-worth.
And insecurity. I always feel like insecurity.
It's tied together. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I feel like that's always a big thing. When I have family members as well, but when I was working in the office, there was always the gossiper, the work mom. What is it? That whole meme, right? That in the office space, you'll have like a work mom, you'll have the gossiper, you'll have the know-it-all, you'll have the perfectionist. So there's like this big meme out there that I was looking at on LinkedIn, but definitely. I always say that I think life is about 90% about reaction, how you react to situations and how you handle situations too.
I would say respond. You react or you respond. Yeah. React is almost like knee jerk, like, oh, I just said you're a jerk, but what I really meant to say is I'd like to respond in this way. I teach that. I call it pattern interruption, because we have these patterns of ways of thinking, of ways of doing. Like, this happens, I do this. This happens, I do this, right? Yeah. If this happens, you're a jerk. If it, I'm trying to think of an example. With everything. I mean, especially addiction. Coming out of addiction, it's huge. Yeah. So it's, around cigarettes specifically. I just had a call with somebody about helping them quit smoking. So it's, when the phone rings, I look for a cigarette. When I am about to do a task, I wait and I go, I'm going to have a cigarette first. When I get bad news, I want a cigarette. When I get good news, I want a cigarette. Like, what are the triggers that for you that make you want to do it? But it's also, that's where you go automatically, because that's what you're training yourself to do, because it's your excuse to go do this thing, which there's a whole bunch hiding behind that, really, like internally, that we have to flush out. And the way that you get to it is by interrupting patterns of thinking and like, okay, I want a cigarette. Wait, no, I don't. I'm going to do this other thing. Okay, that's one way. The other thing is, for example, the gossip thing. I teach people this all the time. When you catch yourself gossiping, saying something about someone who isn't there in the room, or that cannot hear you, you're saying, oh, whatever, you're saying something about someone. Okay. Oh, that person smells like onions, rotten eggs, onions. Okay.
I don't know.
Too bad that person smells so bad. I don't know. You can stop yourself. Even after you've said a whole sentence, it's not too late. Even after you've said a sentence and somebody else responded, you can say, wait a minute, I'm working on this thing. I don't want to gossip. So I'm going to say that in a different way. And then you can reframe it. That's interrupting your ways of thinking. And it gets faster and faster and faster the more you train. Every constantly thinking about it. Another way I teach that is through truth, because we lie. And one way that we lie most, what I'm going to air quote, unintentionally, until we realize we are intentional, is through embellishing. So when we say things like, and there's a place for embellishment in telling a story, and it's leading the reader on, or the listener on through the storytelling. It's another way when you constantly are embellishing. You think you're embellishing, but it's everything you say. Like, wait a minute, is that actually true? The one example I give is, oh, that car was going 1,000,000 miles an hour. Okay, wait a minute, hold on, stop. That car was not going 1,000,000 miles an hour. That car was going like 25, but in this zone, it seemed really fast. Okay, it's not as exciting when I stop myself and say, oh, 25, but it's true. So I get to go, wait, no, I'm not going to let myself get away with this again. It's actually this. Right. And you can stop yourself mid-sentence after the sentence already comes out of your mouth, interrupt your thought pattern, interrupt your speaking, reframe, say it again from truth, and everything changes. Everything changes. everything changes. Anyway, so
I love it. I
there
love
we
it.
go. What was the question again? I'm just everywhere. Okay.
Yeah, no, that's great. I actually took notes so that we can put it in the show notes so that people
Great.
can actually
Excellent.
grasp those concepts. But
Yeah.
I was really interested in those. What was it? 6 habits to what?
6 habits to access your highest self,
Your
which
highest
is
self. Okay.
yeah. When I speak of your highest self, it's like the you that has your best interest in mind. This you that's connected to spirit, God, the universe, and everything. The you that's behind the ego. And that's who I work with when I work with people. I say, I'm working with your highest self. I'm not working with your ego. So your ego is going to want to fight me a little bit, and that's okay. So we'll point at it when it comes to it. So it's a lot. It's amazing work. So the 6 habits are, I mean, let me see here. I can tell you them, but would I be giving anything away? No, I don't know. Let's see.
Well, you don't have
I've given the talk in different ways. I used to teach, I was teaching it as a 6-week course.
Okay.
At one point, I did it as a keynote, and I taught 6 habits in there. And within that conversation in the keynote, I tell my story about alcoholism and sobriety and workaholism, and how paralegals are also workaholics. And you have to be, right? So I can tell you
that speaks a lot about boundaries. I learned it took me a while to learn, because everybody's like, set boundaries, and I'm like, but what does that mean? Like I'm an analytical person. Give me graphs, steps, right? So it's like, what are boundaries, right? Like everybody's like, you need to set boundaries.
That's good.
This, and you need to do that. I'm like, yes, but okay, 1, what are boundaries? 2, how do I set them? And 3, how do I even know if I'm following my own boundaries, right? There were so many questions that I had when it came to this mystical creature of boundaries. And then when I finally realized, oh no, I'm hurting myself. No, I can't record a podcast at 8:00 at night just because it's convenient for you. That's when I'm doing bedtime with my children. So I read this amazing book by Christy Wright, Take Back Your Time, and she talks about that. That's one of her concepts there, about how you have to set boundaries, but you have to stick to them, right? Because it's like a goal. Like everybody sets goals, but then they don't set steps in order to accomplish those goals. And then they're wondering why their goals have never been accomplished, why their bank account is not where they want it to be, why their life is not where they want it to be. And it's like, okay, you're so busy making excuses and obstacles and everything else that you're not really setting, a roadmap, right?
So there's a couple of things in that too. I'm sorry. Do you mind if I?
No, go ahead. I want you to talk about that.
For sure. Yeah, there's a couple of things in there. Number 1, people give up because they forget how much power they have, and they give up on themselves halfway through. Not even halfway through, right at the beginning, usually. Yeah. Most entrepreneurs don't make it to 5 years. I mean, maybe 2. Like they get frustrated. It's a lot of work. Sweat and tears, yes. So they give up on themselves because they don't have accountability. When you have boundary setting and you have all these goals and you have all this stuff that you want to do, sure, stick it to your wall as a list. And then what?
Right.
Call your mom. You can. Call your best friend. You can. And the truth is, and that's where people like you come in, you help people get to their results, right? People hire me to get to the results. And I know, that's what you asked. I'm like, I know there's a question. You asked me what my process was. Okay, I'll get to that in a second. But that's it. That's truly it. Accountability. And accountability is one of the 6 habits. Like, find an accountability partner. You have to have an accountability person. It's either a coach or a best friend or your spouse, but it's got to be an agreement, and it's got to be, pinky swear, drawn in blood. No, it's really, everybody's got to come full heart and full truth. And the thing is, if it's a spouse, it can be iffy. I mean, I've tried to have my spouse as an accountability partner and him with me, and it doesn't really work out. So
my opposite. So no, that's not happening.
Yeah, right. Yeah. But I do want to answer your question from earlier, where you said, what's my process? How do I work with clients? So the offerings that I'm doing now with law firms and clients is I am allowing speaking engagements to be number one. Like I will come do a workshop at your already scheduled program, retreat, or whatever weekend web seminar thing. And because I love that. I love doing that. I love speaking to audiences. I love sharing what I do. I love transforming people right in front of my eyes, and allowing them to find it themselves is like magical. And then the other thing is I am helping law firms or organizations plan retreats. And I'm in conversations with one firm right now about that. Like, what would it look like to do a wellness-based day or 2 days retreat for the firm, for the partners, for the whole firm? Like, we're looking at the different options. And I said, well, I've got a giant network and I would love to put a bunch of professionals together and just make a super awesome event for you guys, and throw some CLEs in there to, cherry on top. And so that's what I'm doing mostly. I was doing coaching in the law firms, and although it's highly beneficial, it's not, I'm not in love with it anymore, because my biggest impact, and I have to be honest with myself as a business owner, if you're not loving it, something you have to tweak something, right? So where my heart is in high impact transformational work. That's what I do. I work with people for 6 months at a time, one-on-one, and there's like magic. It's hard work and it's worth every second. And so that's what I teach. And so that's where I'm focusing now. So if anybody in the firm, when I do the talks and things like that, wants to work with me independently, then I will talk to them about being my client, see if it's a match, all that. But and in this last firm that I worked with, I helped them develop a wellness program. And they decided to do something else. And that's fine. Everybody can do that. So after that experience, like, I'm really good at this, but I'm not in love with it. So I'm going to do the thing I'm in love with, which is coaching and speaking and helping people with events. That's it. So that's what I do now. This firm brought me in to do that, to coach and to help them develop a wellness program. And I did that. And it's like rave reviews. I'm so excited. I can't wait to be able to post about it. And, we just had our exit conversation today, and it was wonderful. And we can't wait to do the next thing, which is hopefully retreats next year. And so that's what I'm doing now. I'm open to having conversations if there's a law firm out there that wants to talk to me about consulting with their firm. I don't want to consult. If they want to bring me in to speak, I'll do that, period. I'm like, this is so brand new. I'm like, no, wait, I don't want to do that. What I want to do is I'll come in and I'll teach a workshop. I've done almost every talk I've done has been able to be run through a CLE for a well-being credit or whatever it's called. I don't even know, because I don't do it. I said, if you can do the CLE thing, that's on you. I'll bring the impact. Okay. That's what I do. So that's what I do. So I'm happy to talk to you or anybody that wants to get into this on a deeper level, because I'm full of info.
I love it. You are definitely a tank of information, and you just bring it every time. So I really enjoy that. And I enjoy that you talk about such a subject that, I know the ABA, American Bar Association, is getting with the wellness pledge. And like you said, there's other organizations that are also pulling through. There's a lot of CLEs on this subject. Like you were saying, I even created one that's like half wellness and half like management, because mine was like mind management, time management, and caseload management. So they kind of like, it was like 2 CLEs, but like one was on wellness and one was in general. So it's really nice that they are open to that, first of all, right? Because before that was it was unheard of. Like you said, nobody wanted to talk about their emotions. And I hope like everybody doesn't think this is like a kumbaya moment. And you know what I mean? Like, it's like, I need you guys to be like the realist that you are, and understand that there are other things that are happening, and that you really need to understand your thoughts, because they create your reality, which then creates the rest of it. So you have to understand the importance of that, whether you're running a business, whether you're a 9-to-5, or whether you are a 1099, W-2, wherever you're at in your career. your mind is what runs the rest. So understanding that your mental health is as important as your physical health, for not only you, for everybody else. So depending on what responsibilities you have outside of your career, it'll affect everybody else. And your business is not going to grow, your career or your bank account is not going to grow until you grow. So on that note, I want to say thank you, Gayle, for all this information. It was amazing. I took a lot of notes, so I'll put it in the show notes. I will add the links that you sent me as well, so that the audience can connect with you in a deeper level, and hopefully it'll be a prosperous relationship from here on out, right?
Yeah, happy to do it again. This was fun.
Awesome. Thanks, Gayle.
You're welcome.
Until
Bye.
justice is served, I'll be here. Bye, guys.